everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, today we continue with Plant-Based Telehealth Week. It's day 2, and to introduce today's fabulous guest, we have the co-founder of Plant-Based Telehealth, Dr. Lori Marbas.
Thank you, Chef AJ. Thank you for having us this week. We're super excited, and I am really honored to introduce, who doesn't really need an introduction, is Dr. Michael Klaper. And Dr. Klaper is licensed in Hawaii, California, New York, and Florida.
Really need an introduction.
Really needs no other introduction than that. He's fantastic. His breadth and depth of plant-based diet and lifestyle medicine is, you just can't compare. And when I have patients who can't see him and they have to see me, they're like, oh, well, I guess I'll see you, but I really want to see Dr. Klaper. But I take it as a compliment still. So yeah, thank you.
You're right about him not needing any introduction. Like me, he's one of the vegan OGs. He's in the Vegan Hall of Fame, and he really is probably the most beloved of all the plant-based doctors. So we're honored to see you, Dr. Michael Klaper.
Lovely to be with you all. Thank you very much for those kind words.
Yeah. Well, you even have a shirt on that says that you work with Plant-Based Telehealth. That's what it looks like to me.
Absolutely. I'm proud of it. It really is a remarkable organization. It's a remarkable time in the evolution of medicine in our society that we're able to organization to bring so much good medical care through this electronic medium. It's really remarkable.
Well, if people are lucky enough to live in one of those 4 states, they can have you as their doctor, because when you left True North, that was such a loss for so many people.
Life moves on, and I've been there for 8 years, and it was such a remarkable experience. I saw nutritional medicine done right, and I saw the power of plant-based nutrition. I saw the power of water fasting, and I'm so glad for the time I spent there. But now rather than seeing people one at a time, I'm putting most of my energy into reaching the medical students and the young doctors and turning them on to plant-based nutrition and lifestyle medicine. But I get to combine both of them when I put on my plant-based telehealth shirt and see patients online on the internet.
Did you want to take a moment to tell people, in case they're unfamiliar with moving medicine forward?
Yes. Plant-based medicine is such a powerful modality. I mean, to think that the most fearsome diseases that most doctors deal with all day, clogged arteries, high blood pressure, diabetes, inflammatory diseases, and most doctors are told these diseases never go away. You must manage the patient's symptoms. That's the best you can do. Well, it turns out these are reversible diseases. All of us who practice lifestyle medicine have dozens of patients who used to be obese, used to have diabetes, used to have high blood pressure, etc. These are reversible diseases, but nobody's telling the young doctors that. It's embarrassing at this day and age to go to your doctor, and they never even ask, what are you eating? And I felt that the reaching the young doctors is an acupuncture point. If we can create a generation of nutritionally aware physicians, how much that would change all of medicine. And so I've been going to the medical schools in North America, but also Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, Canada, Mexico, and giving the students the lecture I wish somebody had given me 50 years ago, and that it's the food your patients are eating. Before you order another $1,000 scan, another $500 set of blood test, ask them what they ate yesterday. And if it's full of burgers and buffalo wings and pepperoni pizzas, that's why they're sitting in front of you, doctor. Send them to the plant-based dietitian, let her do the counseling, let him do the counseling, and you see the patient back there and they'll be healthier. That's how medicine should be practiced these days. Somebody needs to tell the young med students that, so I've been doing that. If people would like to know what I'm telling the students, go to my website, drklaper.com, and click on Moving Medicine Forward. And I have a video there called What I Wish I Learned in Medical School About Nutrition, and you'll see what I'm telling the young medical students. So it really is my passion these days. But it's still fun to treat patients, to help them get better as you can with plant-based medicine, with plant-based telehealth. And plus it pays the rent. I'm still in the material world there. And what an elegant way to earn a living, to be able to help people to to see them in these different states. And we can order blood tests, we can prescribe medications. It's real live medicine. But it's got a much wider scope to it now. So remarkable time in my career and in all of medicine and in American society these days. But it's an exciting place to be, and so I'm enjoying it.
Did you think when you went to medical school that one day you'd be seeing patients virtually like this?
Oh my! Well, there was no internet. There were no computers at that point. Of course not now. But seriously, you always do some telemedicine, and the fact how much time family doctors spend on the phone nowadays is probably on their cell phone and the internet. But when I was just doing standard office practice, you see your patients all day, and then you do your callbacks. And you spend an hour on the phone calling patients back. How are you doing? Is the pain better or worse? How's your breathing? You want to go to the emergency room. You can save someone's life with a phone call, and you can get a lot of information over a phone call. Well, now we've seen that evolve to now you get to see their actual image, and now you get to see their lab tests, and so it's evolved in a beautiful way. But we've always been practicing a form of telemedicine very crudely over the years. But no, I had no idea it was going to turn into this remarkable medium.
How long have you been doing telemedicine like this, and what do you enjoy most about it?
Oh, I've been doing telemedicine even back at True North since I got there in 2009, and I was doing computer consultations all the way through my time there, and even a few years before that when I was still in New Zealand. So I've been doing telemedicine for a good 10 or 15 years now, but never with the efficiency and the focus that I enjoy now as part of plant-based telehealth. The medical records program we have is made to be used with telemedicine and with lifestyle medicine questions. And so it's a beautiful program that really shapes the visit so the doctor can get the most information out of the interaction, the way the patient looks, how they sound, what they're telling you. They can show you skin rashes. You do a lot of psychiatry over the internet from what the person's telling you and how they look, etc. But you can even have them lay down and push on their abdomen and tell you what's tender and what isn't. And as I mentioned, dermatology certainly lends itself. So you can do a lot of good medicine over the internet. And but I just enjoy the kernel of the doctor-patient interaction is for the doctor to be quiet and listen to what your patient is saying to you. That's how you make the diagnosis. But it's healing. People need to be heard. And it's the cry of 21st century. So no one's here listening to me. Well, I get to listen during the telemedicine consultation. And that alone is healing. Plus, you also, now that I can see the patient and listen to their story, by the time they're through talking, I've got a good idea of the diagnosis and what tests to order. And it's a great, and I love the teaching of it. When you order blood tests and then you see them back for their follow-up visits and you go through the result. Well, this is what this is saying about your liver. This is what the tests are saying about your kidney. Here, I've got some inflammation going on. What are you doing? What are you eating? You can do so much healing through the results that you get from ordering these lab tests. So it's the teaching and the healing that I find the most rewarding. And again, that's the same with medicine in general, but even in a computer version of it.
That's great. Well, what makes plant-based telehealth unique among telehealth providers?
Well, so those first two words, of course, plant-based. It's absolutely remarkable. And Dr. Barbara, she's just so amazing and so competent and so confident. I kind of assumed she always knew this would take off because the timing is so right. But I must admit that I did have, when I was asked to join the practice, a little inkling of, now, is this smart to put plant-based in the name of your company here? But it's turned out to be brilliant for a couple of reasons. One, the timing is right. You see now it's the buzzword now. You're seeing plant-based everywhere in products and TV shows, etc. It's become part of the lexicon, and it's got a good connotation attached to it, which is really nice and helpful. But also it's a self-screening device. If anybody has lined up a consultation with one of us doctors at this company, right away, they know that there's going to be a plant-based message somewhere along the line in the therapy part of the program, and they're open to it by definition, or they wouldn't have signed on to see a plant-based telehealth doctor. And so they're open to the message. They know, even if they come in with their tail between their legs for what they've been eating, they know that a whole food plant-based diet is really what they ought to be eating. And they welcome us, our coaching, and even if they're the occasional good-natured finger wag, yeah, I know I shouldn't have been eating that. Well, and again, the teaching that comes from that is so healing and so beautiful. So it's a fascinating place to be working. A company labeled plant-based telehealth, and the patients have been very, very appreciative, very open to the message.
That's great. Well, a person doesn't have to be plant-based to see you, but all the providers are. That's what's so amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Just saying, no, come on. Anybody can come and talk to us. We're doctors. And abdominal pain, and skin rashes. Let us have a look and let us help, diagnosis and treatment suggestions. But we're also often talking about life-threatening diseases, your diabetes, clogged arteries, high blood pressure, asthma. And if a plant-based diet can provide the key to finally getting past that, that's really what patients are looking at. They're tired of being sick. They're tired of being medical patients, just managing their symptoms. And if a plant-based diet can help them no longer have high blood pressure, no longer have diabetes, no longer need those insulin injections, that's a wonderful thing. And so patients come to us with a higher expectation, but fortunately we're able to meet it. As you said, all the doctors are plant-based. They all know the power of a whole food plant-based diet to reverse disease.
So if people live in the 4 states, that you're able to do the telehealth and you can actually order medications for them and tests and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. With the click of a button, it's all geared into the medical program that we use. And and people should feel good if they don't happen to live in the 4 states where I'm licensed. I assure you, any of the other docs that you get at plant-based telehealth, they are lovely people. They're all very competent physicians. They are experienced. We've all been around the block. We've all been in medical practice. We've all sweated nights in the emergency room. We've won our spurs as far as physicians go. But we all have the understanding and the reverence for what, just a healthy diet lifestyle can really do. And that magic fairy dust that a whole food plant-based diet can provide when it comes to lowering cholesterol and relieving inflammation and all that. It's our stock and trade, and we use it to optimal effect. People will get good care when they, no matter who they see in the practice.
Great. Obviously, if somebody steps on a nail, that's not the time for telehealth. But
No.
what conditions do you think benefit most from a telehealth appointment with plant-based telehealth?
Good point. And we can serve as a family physician, but we don't want to take patients away from. If you got a long-term established relationship with your neighborhood family doc, by all means, go see them. But consult with us, and as you say, get a nail in your foot, go to the neurosurgeon care unit and get fixed up with that. No question. But we also have the understanding, the context of disease reversal. And if you have been working with your family physician and you're just kind of stuck with your same high blood pressure medication, your same diabetes medication, come and talk to us. We'll give you a game plan for improving your diet and getting off these medications. And we'll work with your family doctor. We're not out to steal patients. I've got enough patients of my own there. So if people want to use this as needed, a la carte, if somebody comes up and you want to check in with us, absolutely, we'll be glad to function in that way as well. So we're pretty easy. We're utility infielders. We're not in the medical system here. We can work with your family doctor. We can take on that role, but hopefully you should need our services less and less. We want you to be healthy people, off Medicaid, go live your lives. That we want to help you, just with maybe just a few interactions with us till you get the idea of what to eat and get off your medications. And then go enjoy this amazing, brief but wonderful life that we have here. So don't spend it as a medical patient. We're all for you getting out from our care.
Right, a doctor that actually wants you to go away.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's my kind of doctor.
Absolutely.
That's right. Does plant-based telehealth work with other plant-based organizations, say like Plant Pure Communities or the Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute?
We do. This is such a remarkable embryonic time for the plant-based health movement. And it's so wonderful to see so many of the plant-based physicians. Many of us have woken up sequentially, in the 1980s. And Dr. Esselstyn and Hornish and myself and Furman and McDougall, we all, had our plant-based awakenings. And we were slogging away for, throughout the 80s and 90s and 2000. Now there's a whole newer generation of plant-based doctors. It's so exciting to see them, one, in existence. But now we've all, we got the plant-based thing. Now let's make it happen. Let's educate people about it. Let's give them good medical care. So here comes programs like the CHIP program, the Complete Health Improvement Program, with Dr. Lacugina doing it, working on a corporate and individual level. There's Rochester Lifestyle Medicine. These wonderful organizations are existing to really educate people. And we're all for them, but they soon realize there's a bit of a gap. It's one thing to educate people on how to steam your vegetables and take a walk every day and all that, but these are basically educational organizations. But there's a medical step missing. That they get a lot of people coming in for the education, but they're also on 3 medications for their blood pressure and 2 medications for their diabetes, and they're on blood thinners. And these educational organizations really aren't geared to help these people with their medical aspects and how to take off their medication. They're educational organizations. So they said, we need a clinical arm here for someone to step in and really actually engage with the patient on a medical level to help them get off their medications. We can't do that. Well, plant-based telehealth steps forward and says, yes, sir, we'll take that assignment. And we will take the patients as they come out of the CHIP program or while they're in there. And we will work with them to start getting their body working so well they don't need to be on blood pressure medication. They don't need to be on diabetes medicine. So we're playing again that utility infielder where we'll cover the clinical basis till the patients don't need us anymore either, which is really the object of the exercise.
Nice. So can anybody get a consultation with you or one of the other doctors? Because, for example, Ridwana, who's watching live, says, I really like to get off my metformin.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody, you just go to the website, plantbasedtelehealth.com. I'm sure it will make it very visible for you. And it depends. You'll see all the 9. There's 9 of us so far, 9 physicians, all plant-based, and we've got a few more on the horizon. We're going to be switching to plant-based cardiologists, gastroenterologists, but now we're 9 family docs with lifestyle medicine approach. And we have all 50 states covered. So find the docs that are in your state. Look at their bio, see who you vibe with. They all have nice, pretty pictures there, and just click an appointment, book your own appointment. And it's cash on the barrelhead, but very reasonable cost. And you'll get your 50 cents worth, I guarantee it. And you'll be talking to a doctor who you don't have to do a shucks and shuffle your feet. Oh yeah, I'm vegan, and we welcome that. It's okay. We'll never wag our finger at you there. It's okay that you're plant-based. We're rooting for you to do that. That's really unique for us.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Klaper. If you don't mind, we have questions that have been sent in advance, and also some that are posted live. We always give preference to the ones that sent them in, except that one of them that I see in the chat, so adorable that I have to ask. And it's, do you do yoga with Elise?
I certainly do yoga with Elise. Elise Jones is my lovely wife. I'm so lucky to have her. And she's a very experienced yoga teacher. And every other morning, I either work out on my stationary bike or I do yoga. I do 6 salutations of the sun and however Lisa knows that my spine needs to be bent and stretched out there. So yes, I'm so lucky. Marry a yoga teacher. Highly recommended. It's a good thing to hear.
That's great. We love Elise. She's been on the show and she's welcome back anytime.
She's so sweet.
She's the best. She really is.
Yes.
Before I've pulled up the questions that were submitted, but I keep thinking about, I think it was at Vegetarian Summerfest, and you gave a talk once and you said something that has stuck with me like ever since. A lot of things you say stick with me, but this particular sentence, you said something to the effect of, there are no failed vegans that were born vegan. And I think about that because a lot of times, like celebrities, they'll go vegan and then they say, well, it didn't work. And there's entire YouTube channels devoted to vegan bashing. And, I remember you saying that, and it's so profound because you even wrote a book on vegan nutrition and pregnancy.
Indeed. And we are, and I'm sure there's trolls out there that'll make all sorts of comments here, but we're basically plant-eating hominids. So we have fingers on our hands, not claws. We've got long digestive systems for digesting fiber, not short like the carnivores. We've got small mouths and flat grinding molar teeth and rotary jaws for biting into fruits and apples and roots and tubers, etc. We have basically the same digestive system that our gorilla and bonobo cousins have, and they're up in the trees eating leaves and fruit. We really are designed to be plant-eating creatures, and no other primate, feeds its infants animal flesh. At 6 months of age in our society, with the baby still nursing on the breast, with all the love in the mother's heart, that jar of baby lamb and baby chicken and baby turkey is open. And from that point on, 3 times a day, animal flesh is slathered on that child's intestinal tract, all through infancy, all through toddler, childhood, adolescence, puberty, teen years, 20 years, 30 years, they're eating meat 3 times a day. We eat meat 3 times a day for 20, 30, 40 years, especially starting in infancy. You're going to change the metabolism. And the preformed nutrients from muscle, carnitine, creatine, etc., that your body can make. If you're eating it every few hours, if the bloodstream always has carnitine, creatine, myoglobin, all those muscle-containing nutrients, muscle-associated nutrients, then you're going to downregulate your own production of carnitine, creatine, and those are symbolic for hundreds of muscle-related nutrients. I don't want people going out and eating a lot of carnitine tablets here, but it's just a representative molecule for the substances that our muscles make. But again, if you're eating a meat-based diet that's always in your bloodstream, you're going to downregulate your own production of that. Then at age 30, you see Forks Over Knives, or you listen to AJ or Dr. McDougall, and the plant-based light goes on, and you stop eating meat all of a sudden. Most people can gear up their machinery to make the carnitine, creatine, etc., but a significant number of folks, it's going to take them a few months, even a year or more, for their genes to unblock and start producing these molecules. And during that time, they draw down on their stores of creatine, carnitine, myoglobin, etc., and they don't feel so good. And then they eat some meat, and ooh, they feel better. And they say, vegan, schmegan, I'm a carnivore. But what have we witnessed? This is not normal human physiology. This is an acquired dependency created by feeding a human infant animal flesh 3 times a day in infancy. No other primate does that. No gorilla does that. No bonobo does that. We didn't used to do that, but we sure do it now. And so the failed vegan, it didn't work for me. But they're innocent victims. Their mother didn't know, my mother didn't know, your mother didn't know. Who knew? There was no malice intended here. But they got hijacked by this American idea, this Western idea that you got to feed a baby meat 3 times a day. And that's what we're seeing here. But you raise a child as a vegan. I've now seen dozens of, delivered lots of vegan babies and watched them grow up into these healthy, strong, bright, beautiful people. And they don't get cravings for meat. Their mouths don't water when they walk past the barbecue. They're plant-eating humans raised that way through their lives, and they thrive. And there's no failure with these kids, they can't fail as a vegan. They are vegans. Their metabolism was groomed that way. So So I feel bad for the folks who, have a bit of a struggle. And these folks may need to eat meat once a week for a few months, 6 months, 12 months, until they can gear up their enzymes so they don't need the stuff anymore. And that's just, that's a casualty of unwinding this unnatural thing we did to them as infants. It may take them, 6, 12, 18 months to taper off. That's fine. I'd rather they eat meat once a week than 3 times a day. So there's no failed vegans who were raised as vegans. They don't fail.
Yeah. Yeah. You never see Gar Goldhammer going to McDonald's or Heather McDougal.
Really, exactly. That's the point. That's healthy human physiology.
Right. Thank you for saying that, because I just always love to hear this. And so we've had questions that are submitted. 2 of them are almost identical. I'll read them to you. One from Magda. I'm sorry if I botched your name, even though she said this is how you pronounce it. She said, could you please, sorry, where's the question? Hi, Dr. Klaper once said you shouldn't eat fat with starch. I couldn't remember the reason why. Could you ask him about it? And Tammy similarly said, is this the concept of oxidative priority? I believe you said we should eat fat only with greens and separated several hours by starch. Is this for weight control or health or both? It seems like anytime I eat fat as little as an ounce of nuts a day, I can't lose weight. Thank you.
Okay, well, powerful, important concept here. First of all, this is about weight loss. If you are already as lean as AJ is, you don't have to worry. If you want to eat some fat and some starch, fine. That doesn't matter. This is just for the frustrated vegan. I've been vegan 5 years and I'm still carrying this extra weight. Why can't I lose this weight? It's for those folks. And usually what's happening is that they are eating fat and sugar at the same time. And by that, I mean, yes, there's this term oxidative priority. And that just means it's easier for the body to burn sugar, to blow apart a glucose ring and harvest the energy. It's easier to burn sugar than burn fats, these long chain fatty acids that require a lot of enzyme steps to digest these, to metabolize these long chain fats. Given the choice, the body would rather burn sugar than burn fat. And so, that's the oxidative priority. It's easier to oxidize the sugar than the fats. So that said, if you eat food that has sugar and fat at the same time, like ice cream is fat and sugar, right? Pizza, it's fat in the cheese and sausage on the starchy crust. That's another good fat and sugar combination. If you eat fat and sugar at the same time and they're both in your bloodstream, the liver and the body say, fat, sugar, I'm going to burn that sugar right now for energy. I'm going to store that fat for later. And so you burn the sugar and store the fat. And so this classically is, behind America's obesity problem with the burgers and fries and shakes and hot dogs, etc. There's constantly fats from the meat and dairy and sugars from the white bread and hamburger buns and ketchup with sugar and all that stuff. Americans are eating fat and sugar all the time. And so that's one reason they're so obese. But as far as the vegans, where are they eating fat and sugar? Well, pour oil on your pasta. That's a nice way to recreate that fat sugar combo. Have an almond butter and jelly sandwich. Now, it's healthy, but if you're trying to lose weight, you've recreated that fat and sugar combo. You're going to burn the sugar in the jelly and the bread. You're going to store the fat in the almond oil there. So if you're trying to lose weight, don't be eating fat. Don't put earth balanced margarine on your baked potato. There's fat and sugar, and it's going to keep you stuffed. So what do? And again, this is just to the folks struggling to lose weight. If you're already lean, don't drive yourself nuts over this. But if you're trying to lose weight, you want to separate the fats and the sugars out by about 4 hours. Why? Because when you eat rice or potatoes, it takes about 4 hours to metabolize that and clear it out of your bloodstream for the insulin to go up and down and all that stuff. So if that's the case, then you allow for that. If you want to eat starch, have a couple of baked potatoes or some rice, great. Have it at noontime, and instead of something oily on your baked potato, put some Mexican salsa on it. Put last night's vegetable stew on it. Put something that isn't oily and fatty. Then let the afternoon go by, so your insulin goes up and down and metabolizes, clears the sugar out of your blood. And at dinner time, if you want to have something, some tahini dressing on your, or something that's some olives or avocado, put it on your salad in the evening. Put it on your non-starchy vegetables. Pour it over your asparagus or your broccoli, and you'll metabolize the fat pretty quickly, but you're less likely to store it. So again, so you separate out the fats and the sugars. Now everything has a little bit of fat and a little bit of sugar. An apple has a little bit of apple oil and a little bit of apple sugar. All whole foods have a little bit of fat, a little bit of oil, a little bit of sugar. Don't drive yourself nuts over it. But as long as they're whole foods, separate the obviously fatty ones, the nuts, the avocados, the olives, separate those out from the obviously starchy ones, the potatoes and the rice, etc. If you just do that and eat a ton of vegetables, lots of salads, lots of soups, lots of steamed veggies, the weight will come off there. But it's just one of the little traps that can keep vegans stuck if they're trying to lose weight.
Great. Well, thanks for explaining it, because that's what people always want, peanut sauce on their pasta, and that's that sugar fat combination. Yep.
Fair enough. Thank you for the opportunity to clarify that. And again, it's just I don't want this to be a general trend. If you're nice and lean, it's okay to be a little bit.
Because Charles eats peanut butter on bread all the time and can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's funny because when I've had like Dr. Goldhammer or Dr. Lyle on, they explained that in nature, sugar and fat aren't really together, not really in a concentrated form.
Correct. Well, very astute. That's correct. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Jean says, I cannot get any help regarding, I probably mispronounce this, lichen sclerosis. I'm reading nutrition has nothing to offer, but I don't want to believe that. I don't want to take steroids because of osteoporosis. I'm hoping Dr. Klaper might have some advice on this disease, which I have no idea what it is.
Oh boy, lichen sclerosis. It's a strange condition where fibrous tissue, especially around among female patients, around the vulva, around the vaginal orifice, the tissues get tight and fibrous, and the skin can get itchy, shiny. It's just a dreadful condition to have. I've only seen it a few times. What I would suggest, and I know she doesn't want to use steroids due to the adverse effect on the bones. But if it's done appropriately, using a medium strength steroid cream just on the vaginal tissues, you'll get a lot of beneficial effect locally without very much of it getting into the bloodstream at all. So I would suggest you talk to a gynecologist or a dermatologist and get some potent triamcinolone or betamethasone cream and apply that to the places where the tissues are getting tougher and see if that doesn't soften things up and make things better.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. So this question is from Anne. Question for Dr. Klaper. How to lower triglycerides? Could starch raise triglycerides? I do whole food, plant-based, no processed foods, cook oil, salt and sugar free, but a third of a teaspoon of salt at the table. So that's not salt free for the whole meal, not daily. Stopped eating dried fruit, only have 1 serving of fresh fruit a day, berries, apple or banana, added 2 teaspoons of almond powder to 3/4 cup of oats, homemade almond milk. Weight has resumed to come off, but triglycerides went up, still have 30 pounds to go. Starches are rice, beans, potatoes, and squashes, sometimes lentils. So triglycerides.
Triglycerides. Okay, if you'll give me a few minutes, let me lay out a very important concept. I've talked to a group of cardiologists, and I told them, I really respect the life-saving work you do, but lately, you guys you've stopped being biologists and you've become these fear-filled technicians, ricocheting off these numbers, triglycerides, cholesterol numbers, particle size, particle numbers, etc. Because if the numbers looks unfavorable and you don't have the patient on statins, you're going to get sued if they have a heart attack. So we prescribe these medications. It's numbers, numbers, numbers. And I said, wait a minute, step back and be a biologist. The question isn't how high is your triglycerides or how high is your cholesterol. Question is, how healthy are those artery walls? Do you have atherosclerotic plaque formation going on in those artery walls or don't you? And The plaque does not form in the artery walls because your LDL is too high or your triglycerides are too high. These are inflammatory lesions. These arteries are being injured by the owner of the arteries. You are watching a biological process where Joe meat-eating American is injuring those arteries 3 times a day. And every cardiologist who opens up the door in his waiting room and looks to see who's sitting there waiting to see him is looking at a bunch of middle-aged men and women all eating cheeseburgers and pepperoni pizzas, overweight, diabetic, hypertensive, and no one's talking to them about their diet. And they all have high cholesterol, they all have triglycerides, and they all all have high LDLs, and they go on to get heart attacks and strokes. So the cardiologist just, oh, we got high triglycerides, let's lower them. Got high LDL, let's lower them. And they've stopped being biologists and doctors. What is this man or woman doing to their arteries? 3 times a day, they run a flood of cooked animal protein, high fructose corn syrup, fried vegetable oils, phosphoric acid from cola drinks, alcohol from the beer, secondhand cigarette smoke, emulsifying agents from candy bars that tear up the endothelial lining. Meal after meal, hour after hour, this chemical assault is going on against the artery walls, against those precious endothelial cells that Dr. Esselstyn talked about. So their diet rips up their precious protective lining. And then, because nobody eats raw meat, the very act of roasting that chicken breast or broiling that steak means you're oxidizing the cholesterol in the animal muscle, which then the person eats with the chicken breast or the burger. Now you've got a bunch of oxidized cholesterol flowing through the bloodstream. Well, it's the oxidized cholesterol that's the most atherogenic. It's the oxidized cholesterol particles that burrow into the wall of the artery, set off the inflammatory reaction that then shows up as atherosclerotic plaque. So this is a biological process. There's an inflammatory fire burning in the walls of the artery due to the diet the person is choosing to consume. It's way beyond how high is your triglycerides. It's, are you damaging your arteries or not? If you are eating a whole food, plant-based diet, if the only thing you're running through those arteries is rice and beans and greens and quinoa and fruits and vegetables, you're not doing that to your arteries. In fact, and the more green vegetables you eat, as Dr. Esselstyn tells us, the healthier your endothelial lining is going to be. Those kind of meals give the chemical message to your artery walls, shh, calm down, everything's okay. They promote tissue repair. And so as we're focused on these numbers, I call it the tyranny of the numbers. You know, what's your triglycerides? If you're this woman is eating such a beautiful diet, it sounds, that she's eating what every American should be eating. It doesn't matter what her triglycerides are. Now, it's true, if you eat way too much fructose, you're going to force your liver to turn it into triglycerides. And if you've also been eating lots of evil things that have injured your arteries, yeah, that could be problematic. But if just, you know, she had some fruit the day before she had her blood drawn, her triglycerides transient went up, but her arteries are healthy, it doesn't matter at all. And so, again, to my colleagues, to the cardiologists, look at the patient, not just these numbers. Are they injuring their arteries or not? If they're a whole food plant-based eater, they're not injuring their arteries. Now, what to do, finally, to drag this out, rather than focusing on your cholesterol, your triglyceride numbers, ask your doctor to measure your inflammatory markers, high sensitivity CRP, myeloperoxidase, phospholipase, oxidized cholesterol, measure those. If those are stone cold negative, and most of them are on this woman's diet, those are all, doesn't sound like she's inflamed. If those come back low normal, relax. You can relax, the cardiologist can relax. You don't have the disease of atherosclerosis. If you want any further proof, have them send you over to the ultrasound department, get an ultrasound scan of your carotid arteries. And if those are clean and the flow is nice and laminar, you don't have the disease of atherosclerosis. I don't care if your cholesterol is 210. I don't care if your triglycerides are 180. It's not causing you any harm. If you want more explanation, go to my website, drklaper.com, and click on a video called Beyond Cholesterol, where I go into all of this. So in general, yeah, your triglycerides go up, they go down, depends how much sugars you eat. Minimize the amount of refined sugars, but that's really all you need to do. If the rest of your diet is whole food, plant-based, and you're not diabetic, you have high blood pressure, relax, eat more greens, and don't worry about your triglycerides.
Right. Thank you. And if Anne lives in one of the 4 states, she'd be a prime candidate for a plant-based telehealth appointment with you.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, all the other docs know this too.
Okay, thank you. So here is a question from Colleen. And this is about, do you think vegans must take DHA?
Oh my. Short answer is no, and I know that upsets a few doctors in the plant-based movement. And so here's my evolution on that. We're told that vegans don't make we eat an 18 carbon chain called ALA in our diet. Our body then adds 2 carbons to turn it into EPA, and then 2 more carbons into DHA. And that's what we need to make our brains work, etc. And because the humans are very slow and bad at making these chain lengthening steps, then you better take some preformed DHA just for insurance. And I used to think that made sense. I used to take it myself. A couple of things got me concerned about it. Just the first concern was whether someone with a strong family history of prostate cancer, if a guy says, my father, 2 brothers, and an uncle all died of prostate cancer at age 45, there are studies showing that large amounts of DHA may increase your risk for that. So that made me think that it might not be so benign. But 2 other things, and I'm sorry that we got to get kind of sciencey here, and I'm going to be putting out a video where I go into this and I show you the studies. But to make a long story short, fasten your seatbelts. We're going to put a toe into biochemistry land here. It turns out that EPA is the 20 carbon chain is by far the most important. As soon as the body makes EPA out of the flax seeds that you've been eating, it immediately does things. EPA doesn't stick around very long. It's immediately turned into neurotransmitters and cell membranes and cell organelles. There's a very rapid turnover of EPA. Now, it's been noted for a long time when people take DHA, the 22 carbon end product, that the EPA level starts going up. And they say, well, isn't that wonderful? Look how benevolent DHA is, backfill. This 22 carbon atom will actually go back down into a 20 carbon atom state and it will backfill your EPA needs. Isn't that wonderful? Well, some science marches on, and some biochemists in Toronto just made it very clear that no, doctor, that's not what's happening. That EPA in your tissues isn't going up because the DHA is turning back into EPA. No, what's happening is that the DHA is inhibiting the clearance of EPA. EPA was trying to get on with turning into neurotransmitters and cell membranes, and a bunch of DHA kind of puts a chemical glue and slows down the reaction, slows down the clearance of that. And that's why the EPA is piling up. That's why it's going up. It's not being metabolized. Well, this makes me concerned. What else are we doing there? And by me telling all vegans ought to be taking DHA, I'm really saying all vegans should be backing up their EPA synthesis and their EPA metabolism. Well, that's a good thing. Why is that a good thing? And if I have a 20-year-old vegan ask me, Doc, should I be taking DHA? And I said, yes, for the next 20 years, I want you inhibiting your EPA metabolism. That's going to protect you from dementia. Do I know that? Do I know what I'm talking about? No. And for that reason, I'm saying, do we need to be taking DHA? No, you can't do one thing in the body. You can't do just one thing. Everything sets off a cascade of events. And the truth is, I don't know what I'm saying by saying taking DHA for one thing. Second, the risks that have been associated with low omega-3 levels has to do with heart attacks mostly and strokes. Well, I'm at low risk for that anyway. My arteries are clean, my inflammatory markers are negative, so I don't need to take DHA for that. Do I think it will protect me from dementia? I have no proof of that anyway. And DHA is not cheap. If that 20-year-old vegan, he's going to be paying $600 a year for DHA. $50 every 6 months is that's $600 a year times 20 years. That's $14,000 in DHA he's bought from age 20 to 40. Is that true? And then he takes it to 60. That's another 14,000. And so he's paid, $28,000 DHA for what? Have I really protected him from dementia or heart attacks? Maybe I've done him harm by increasing his prostate cancer risk or backing up his EPA metabolism. The fact is, I don't know enough to say, yes, vegans should be taking DHA. There comes a point where you got to trust your own metabolism. I eat 2 tablespoons of flax seeds every morning on my oatmeal. I know I've got plenty of ALA, plenty of the rootstock molecule. I've got to trust my liver and my brain to make it into as much DHA as I'm going to need. So at this point, I wanted to start when my omega-3 indexes came back around 4.8. Well, I want to start taking DHA, but as I started taking it, what am I doing? Am I backing up my EPA metabolism for what? Is this a good thing? Till I know it's not a bad thing, I'm going to say take your flaxseed and chia seeds and hemp seeds and trust your liver, trust your brain metabolism. At this point, I'm not a DHA fan. Sorry to my colleagues who get upset when they hear me say this.
Well, but a lot of your colleagues agree with you, Dr. McDougall,
Yeah.
Dr. Esselstyn, and Dr. Campbell. They don't take a
They don't
DHA
take it
supplement.
either.
Dr. Barnard, they all seem sharp as tacks to me so far.
Yep, so I'm still not going to be taking it.
Great. Well, good for you. Thank you for clarifying that, because I appreciate that. This is from Anonymous, and she says she's a nearly 64-year-old healthy person, and she has an 85-pound lab ran into her, fell on her back, and per x-ray, she has compression fracture of lumbar vertebra 2, bone density scan says osteoporosis, and they're going to be recommending daily self-administered injections for 1 to 2 years. She has a fracture now, and she prefers not to take meds. Is there somewhere else to turn? Are there any orthopedic or osteoporosis doctors out there? Is this something that I don't know what state she lives in, but is this something a plant-based telehealth doctor might be able to help with?
Absolutely, absolutely. Your bones are alive. They know how to make new bone. You can strengthen your bones just like you strengthen muscle. You can start, you want to strengthen your muscles, you get some elastic bands, you get a little 3-pound hand weights, and while you're watching TV, you start using those muscles. Well, guess what? Your bones will respond as well. They'll lay down new bones. They are just like any other tissue. The more you use it, the stronger they get. So I urge you to don't despair here. And I'm not a big fan of these drugs like Fosamax and Prolia. They are toxins to some very important cells in the bone structure. I won't go into all the issues there, but poisoning your osteoclast cells is no way to make your bones stronger. What you want to do is make your bones stronger. You make sure your diet is really filled with all the good things that all the rest of your tissues need, and really be very liberal with the protein. You want lots of beans and peas and chickpeas and lentils, lots of legumes. You want enough vitamin D. Keep your vitamin D level between 40 and 70, even if you need to use supplements for that. Calcium levels, no more than 500 milligrams in a supplement form. The rest should come from your food, but it's not a matter of flooding your body with calcium. 200 to 500 milligrams is all you need. So, and lots of green and yellow vegetables, lots of salads and fresh veggies. So nutrition is square one, nourishing your bones. Then you got to use them. You got to put them under a little bit of stress. These elastic bands will work. Getting a little, once your spinal fracture heals, which it will in a couple of months, Get yourself a nice light weighted vest and just wear it around the house. Every step you take with it puts a little weight down your spine and wakes up those bone building cells in your vertebrae there. So I urge you to subscribe to this website. It's called the Better Bones blog. Dr. Susan Brown, she has some wonderful ideas. She's got a good head on making your bones stronger, and she's at betterbones.com. So subscribe to the Better Bones blog, and she gives, what do you do if you've been diagnosed with osteopenia and how to get your bones stronger. She has wonderful blogs there. So eat a lot of food, get on a good exercise program, and follow the Better Bones blog. And your bones get stronger, but I would urge you to follow that instinct in you that doesn't want to take those bone drugs. You're right. Don't take them. Make your bones stronger the natural way, and you'll live a long, healthy life with no more fractures.
Even though Sally Field does a commercial for it, doesn't mean we should take it.
Hear, hear. Amen. Thank you.
Well, those are all the questions that have been sent in. So guys, if you want priority, please send them in. But there's one question in the chat that I really like. Not that I don't like the other ones, but Nancy says that Pregnancy, Children, and the Vegan Diet is one of her most treasured books. And she loves how there were pictures of Victoria Moran's daughter and a young Ocean Robbins and the Phoenix family. And she's wondering, what are your favorite memories of that time? I love that.
Oh my, this is back in 1986. I became a vegan in 1981, and I was in medical practice in Florida, and people were coming to me, especially once they found out that I was a vegan, taking care of the vegans. They were asking questions, is this a healthy, reasonable thing to do? So I had to back engineer vegan nutrition. Well, clearly every elephant in Buffalo knows how to run a mammalian body on plants, so it can be done. There were vegan athletes at that point, Dave Scott and others. You can do athletic events, so I know it works. So I had to kind of back engineer the whole biochemistry of vegan nutrition. And then some young pregnant vegan women came to me, asked if I would follow them through and deliver their babies. And I was a young doc at the time. I only been in practice 10 years. And I thought, oh my heavens, is this a safe, reasonable thing to do? And but they were absolutely determined, and I was going to talk them out of it. And I know women have been having babies on plant-based diets for thousands of years. It can be done. So I urged them to really up their nutrition and have an extra hummus sandwich every day, an extra scoop of lentil stew or a bean burrito. You get those proteins and vitamin minerals going. And it was just remarkable. Every one of these women, and I delivered 12, 15 of them over the course of in the late 80s. Every one of them heard from their families. As soon as the families learned that she was going to go through this pregnancy as a vegan, you're not going to eat meat or dairy. That baby's, you're going to be undernourished. You're not going to gain weight. That baby's going to come out weighing 2 pounds, and this is child abuse. You're doing something terrible. Everyone heard that. Every one of these women. I followed them along through their pregnancies. They had these perfect pregnancies, no morning sickness, no preeclampsia, no high blood pressure, no postpartum, no prepartum hemorrhage. They went into labor, and because they unlike most American women who eat so much junk food, their babies get so big that they can't deliver naturally. They wind up with cesarean section, diabetes. These women that have these lovely 6-7 pound kids had these easy labors. If labor is ever easy, easier, non-eventful labors, and they all deliver these healthy, vigorous 6, 7, 8 pound kids with vigorous cries, and I realized can be done, no question. So I started doing handouts to these kids that eventually turned into a book. This little book on vegan nutrition, pure and simple. But the miracle and the rightness of a plant-based diet being able to get us through all stages of life, including pregnancy, including creating another healthy human being, and to watch these children being raised as vegans, knowing that they'll never become obese, they're never going to develop high blood pressure, they'll have clean arteries, they're never going to have diabetes. What a gift these vegan parents gave to their children. It was so exciting, and so you bet I wrote that in the book. And my friends were in it. They were vegan parents, John Robbins and Victoria Moran and Hart Phoenix. They were raising their kids as vegan, and you saw the pictures, how beautiful they are, and look what beautiful adults they turned into. So it was all a big validation. Yes, you can have a healthy pregnancy and raise a healthy child on plant-based nutrition. And the friends I made and the miracles I saw and the glorious deliveries I got to witness, it was just a wonderful chapter in my life.
You know, I always remember that video, and they showed a lot of different places where you were the anesthesiologist and you had to draw the blood yourself because there was no one there, and you saw how much fat was in the blood, and you asked the patient what he had, and it was like a cheeseburger and a shake. And was that really the impetus of you going vegan, that experience?
Oh, that was amazing. That moved me right along. And as you just said, I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service in Vancouver. And a patient of mine had been out on a day pass before his surgery, came back in. His blood was all fatty as I drew it into a tube. And the next day we took him to the operating room, and I saw the state of his arteries. And I saw what that diet really does. But my father died of clogged arteries. I got those genes. I'm enough of a physician to know that if I didn't change my diet, I'm going to be laying on that operating table with that striper saw going up my sternum. And I sure didn't want that. There were already studies in the medical literature. Dr. Frey Ellis and others show that you can melt away this atherosclerotic plaque with a plant-based diet. The lights were just flashing. Klaper evolved to a plant-based diet. And I did, and within 12 weeks, a 20-pound spare tire of fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol went to normal. I felt great waking up in a nice, lean body, and there was no going back after that.
But Dr. Klaper, you seem to have always had the ethical piece and not ashamed of it, because so many of the vegan doctors never want to go into that area, but you seem proud of it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I grew up, I did a lot of my growing up on my uncle's dairy farm in Wisconsin. I have animals all in my life. And they're creatures. They're magical, wonderful creatures. And to see a mink caught in a trap, I chopped the heads off chickens. I committed such cruelties that as I grew and my heart opened, how can I do, what right do we have to do that? And they love their lives as much as I do. And I could see it in the eyes of every cow that we loaded onto the trucks from the slaughterhouse. They knew, and life is so precious. It's such a miracle. I can't make, I'm one of these guys that scoops up spiders in jars and takes them outside into the garden. What right do I to crush that spider, to take its life? It couldn't help being a spider. It was being a spider. Who am I? All life is precious. And as a physician, as one who loves life, how can I ignore the fact that when you order a cheeseburger, you are paying for the death of the animal and for the next one in line at the slaughterhouse? I couldn't escape the complicity of it at this point, and I just love life, and I love every one of these animals. I feed the birds in the backyard. The squirrels come up and take nuts out of our hands. Life is such a miracle, such a privilege to be part of it. What right do we have to take any life, let alone on the industrial scale that we kill 80 billion living creatures every year? What right do we have to do that? So you bet I'll call that unethical and unnecessary. And I'm proud that I let my heart lead the way and that the science lines up behind it. It's such a validation that the less we kill, the more we preserve life, the healthier we get. When we choose the non-suffering way to nourish ourselves, the life rewards us with glowing health. What greater validation do we need?
That is so beautiful, Dr. Klaper, and that is exactly why you are in the Vegan Hall of Fame. And I just want to show you a little device that we have, because I'm like you and John Pierre, I do not kill bugs. And in every single room, we have what's called a Bugzooka, and because we have some really big spiders in the desert, and what it does is it gently sucks them up, and then you can drive them a couple of blocks away and gently release them.
Thank you. I'm going to order 3 of those.
We have them in every room because
every room?
sometimes you don't have time to run to
Thank
the other
you.
room because these little guys are pretty fast. So I love it. I love it.
Thank you, AJ. I had no idea that made this interview worthwhile just to see you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You learn something new. No, thank you, Dr. Klaper. You are so, you can't probably see the chat, but you're so loved and you are beloved. And we thank you for the tremendous contribution you've made to the planet in general, but to our community in particular. And it's so wonderful now that in 4 states, we can actually have you be our doctor again.
Well, thank you, AJ, for this wonderful platform and for the wonderful energy and education you give to your viewers. You're a gift as well.
Well,
Great
thank
to have
you.
you as a friend.
Thank you. And if you guys have any extra pennies, moving medicine forward would be a wonderful place. Dr. Klaper, is it an Amazon choice? Do you know how when we shop on Amazon now, we can pick a
No, I haven't done that. Thank you. I should
Okay,
do
Dr.
that.
Klaper, do that and I'll change it to you because the organization I was giving to, I'm not happy with anymore.
Okay,
So I would
thank
love
you.
to. Yeah, it's a great thing because I saw like how much money went to it last year just from my Amazon.
Oh my.
So yeah, please do. See, now you learned 2 things. Maybe you'll
I
come
learned
back
2
again.
things. Thank you so much, AJ.
Oh, my pleasure, Dr.
Thank you.
Klaper.
All the best to your viewers.
Well,
Take
thank
care.
you. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow for day 3 of Plant-Based Telehealth Week when we have another wonderful, fabulous doctor named Jeffrey Pierce. Say love to Elise.